Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about the order of operations. So let's get started. Grab a pen, a paper, whatever it is that you use to take notes, and let's go. So we're going to talk about PEMDAS. I know this is a really popular acronym in middle school math, high school math. Some people, I've heard it being taught as, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. But PEMDAS really is a tool to memorize the order of operations. And the reason why order of operations is important is because when we evaluate expressions, we may have more than one operation in that expression. We may have addition, we may have multiplication and addition, we may have division and multiplication, division and addition. So we can begin to have a lot of combinations of these operations. And so it's important for us to know the order of them. So I want you to pause and think, what are some operations that you can think of that we have discussed so far, that we have encountered, or maybe that you have encountered, and then we'll go ahead and jot them down right here. Okay, got them? Have you thought of any? I can think of one. I can think of many. So I'm going to write addition. Addition, it's so basic, so much history with addition. The next one would be the opposite of addition, which would be subtraction. Yes, no one likes subtraction. It gets confusing, but it's pretty cool. People sleep on subtraction. Our next operation would be multiplication. Yes, multiplication. And what is the opposite of multiplication? Division. Division, I feel, is multiplication's evil twin sometimes, just like subtraction can be the evil twin for addition, I feel. Those are just my opinions, not facts. And finally, we have the exponents, right? Exponents or powers. Let's call them powers, but let's call them exponents, because we do have the P and it equals, it means parentheses. So we're going to know what each of these means in the next slide. But I just wanted you to start thinking of some operations that you've already encountered in your mathematical academic journey. So let's go ahead and go on to the next slide. Okay, so here is what PEMDAS means. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. P means parentheses, so grouping symbols. Surprise, they're back. E is for us to evaluate powers. So if you forgot what a power is, don't worry. It's just a base raised to an exponent. So that this is our power. So something like 2 cubed or 1 to the 8th, things like that. Multiplication. So we're going to do multiplication from left to right. Division has the same priority as multiplications, but if we have both, we will go from left to right. And addition is next, subtraction. Addition and subtraction have the same priority, but addition and subtraction have a lower priority than multiplication and division. So our order will usually go, if we have something in the parentheses, we're going to do this first. If we have an exponent, we're going to do this second. If we have something multiplied on the outside, we're going to do this third. And if we have some type of subtraction on the outside of all of this, we're going to do this last. Okay, so it's better to understand this by doing it, of course, practicing it. So we are going to do some examples. So let's try it. We're going to evaluate the expression 3x squared plus 1 when x is equal to 4, and we are told to use the order of operations. This is what I like to do. I like to write PEMDAS. So I'm going to remember this. Parentheses, exponents, or evaluating powers, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Okay, so now we're going to evaluate. We've been evaluating expressions, and what we're going to do is we're going to substitute. We are told that x is equal to 4, and this is our variable expression. So wherever we see an x, we're going to replace that with a 4. So 3 times 4, and this is squared. So notice here, I have two things. I have a power, I have multiplication, and then I have this addition. So I'm going to evaluate the power first. Why? Because this part is before this. Evaluating powers has a higher priority than multiplication. So I'm going to do that first. So let's show it. So I'm going to do this first. So I'm going to write 3 times, and this is going to be 4 times 4 plus 1, 3 times 16. Okay, now I have multiplication and addition. So which one am I going to do first? I have multiplication and then this addition. So multiplication is right here, addition is here, so we're going to do this first, okay? All right, let me go ahead and erase this. So we are going to do the multiplication first. So 3 times 16 is going to give us 48 plus 1. Now we can do the addition, so this will be 49. Easy enough, right? Usually when we begin to learn order of operations, we always want to reference this up here, this acronym, PEMDAS, because we want to make sure what we are going to do next. And then as you progress in math, it will become a little bit more natural to you, and you'll just know. After so many practice examples, you will just know. And when you're doing problems and someone asks you, hey, how'd you do that? You're just going to say, I just know. I'm just kidding. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and move to the next example. So we're going to evaluate the variable expression when x is equal to 2, and we are told to use the order of operations. So again, we're going to write. We have to know this. We have to memorize this. We have to understand it. Okay. So for this first problem, we have 2x squared plus 4, and our x is equal to 2. So we're going to substitute. So when x is equal to 2, every time I see an x, I'm going to write a 2. Okay, so 2 squared plus 4 again. We have our power here. We have to evaluate powers before we do our multiplication. Or you could even say, you know, I have these parentheses, we have a 2 squared, so I'm going to do is in the parentheses first, and it's exponent acting on the 2, so I'm going to do that first. Okay, so I'm going to write 2 times 2 squared is 4 plus 14. Now I have multiplication and I have addition. If I look up here, multiplication comes first before addition, so I'm going to do multiplication. So 2 times 4 is 8. Now I have my addition. I bring down my 14. Oh, it's not a 14, it's a 4. Oh my goodness, I am so sorry. I apologize. What am I thinking? 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. 8 plus 4 is going to give us 12. This is important, why you should always keep track of everything, because you can add numbers, take away numbers, you can come up with new math all on your own, and no one's ever going to know where that came from. So always double check your work. Okay, so for our next example, I'm actually going to write it over here to the left, to the right. So 8 minus x squared. I'm going to, okay, so then x is equal to 2, and we're asked to evaluate this using the order of operations when x is equal to 2. So I have 8x squared. Wherever I see an x, I'm going to write a 2. So I write 2 squared. I have subtraction, and I have a power. So I'm going to look up to my PEMDAS, to the PEMDAS, and I'm going to see that evaluating powers comes before subtraction. So I'm going to do this operation, 2 squared, first. So I already know that 2 squared is 4, but I'm just going to show it to you so that we can kind of make it clear for everyone who hasn't seen the exponents video. I want to make sure everyone is here and can learn along with us. So 2 times 2 is going to give us 4. Now we have subtraction all on its own, so I can carry out the subtraction. 8 minus 4 is 4. Exciting stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and jot all of this down. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them. So go ahead and write all this down so that we can continue. Okay, so we have another example. We have 6 plus 3x squared when x is equal to 2. Go ahead and pause the video right now and attempt these two problems. They are exactly the same as the ones we did before. The numbers are different. I know you can do it. Remember, hold on one second. Evaluating exponents, it's going to be multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Okay, go. Alrighty, I hope that you got a good crack at those problems. We're going to work on them together now. So we have our variable expression here, 6 plus 3x squared, when x equals to 2, and we're asked to evaluate. So wherever I see an x, I'm going to write a 2. So 3 times 2 squared. Now I have addition, and I have multiplication, and I have this power. So I look up to my PEMDAS acronym, and I see that x to evaluate powers comes before multiplication. So I have to take care of this 2 squared. So I write 6 plus 3. I know that 2 squared, we said, is 2 times 2, so that's 4. Now I have addition and subtraction. So addition and multiplication. So I'm going to do the multiplication before, because if I look up to the PEMDAS, the PEMDAS up here, the multiplication comes before the addition. So I'm going to multiply 3 times 4 is 12, and I add the 6. So 6 plus 12 is 18. Okay, good. Hopefully you got that. If not, go ahead and compare where you may have added a 1 instead of, maybe you had a 16, like I had a 14. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next one. So we have 20 minus 4x squared. Again, we're going to substitute and evaluate when x is equal to 2. So wherever I see an x in this problem, I write a 2. So I write 2 squared. So now now I have subtraction, and I have multiplication, and I have this power, but I'm going to evaluate the power first because that's the order of operations. Evaluating powers comes before multiplication, and it definitely comes before subtraction. So I'm going to write this down, 20 minus 4, and we said 2 squared is equal to 2 times 2, which is 4. Okay, now I have subtraction and I have multiplication, but my order of operation tells me that multiplication comes before subtraction. So we're here, so we're going to do this, okay? Because we're also here. We have multiplication and subtraction, but multiplication has more importance. We do it first. So 20 minus, so 4 times 4 is 16. And now we can do the subtraction. So 20 minus 16 is going to give us 4. Okay, hopefully you got these two same answers. If you didn't, go ahead and compare your work. Please make sure that you are understanding this. The parentheses comes first, our grouping symbols. We evaluate our powers, multiplying, division, addition, and subtraction. Okay, So let's go ahead and jot all this down so we can continue on to the next example, to the next slide. Okay, now remember we talked about how multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction have the same priority, meaning that multiplication is not more important than division, and addition is not more important than subtraction, and they take the same importance when we have them in an expression. So when we encounter these operations that have the same priority, we're going to follow the left to right rule. And this states that when the operations have the same priority, you perform them in the order from left to right, kind of like how we read. So we read this way. So if I have something like 2 plus 5 minus 2, well, actually, let's use a different number, minus 1. Then we have addition here, but we also have subtraction. They have the same priority. So what we're going to do is we're going to work our way this way. We're going to work towards that direction. So we're going to add this first. So 2 plus 5 is going to give us 7. Then we're going to drop down our 1, bring down our 1 with us, and then we can do our subtraction. So this would give us 6. Or if we have another example like 2 times 5 divided by 2, something like this. So we have multiplication here and division. They have the same priority. So what we're going to do is we're going to work our way to the left. So left to right. So we're going to do the multiplication first. So 2 times 5 is 10. Got ahead of myself. And then we're going to bring down our division sign and the 2. And now we can do the division. So that would be 5. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So that's how we're going to work on it. I find that this rule is actually very natural. I think, especially since we read from left to right, I think it's kind of intuitive, but it's important to know. Okay, so let's go ahead and go on to the next slide where we're going to have some examples. So we're going to evaluate the expression using the left to right rule, because we have 24 minus 8 minus 6. So I'm going to work my way to the from left to right. Okay, so 24 minus 8, that's going to give me 16. And then we drop down the 6. And now we do this operation. So 16 minus 6, that's going to give me 10. Okay. Now we're going to work on the next one. We have 15 times 2 divided by 6. So we're going to work from left to right. So I'm going to do this first. 15 times 2, that's 30. Now I drop down my division sign and the 6, and now I can do this division. So 30 divided by 6 is 5. Okay, hopefully that is making sense. Let's go and to the next one. Now, remember we said that we can denote division with this sign right here, or we can have fraction bars, or we have a number on the numerator and the denominator. So we can also use fraction bars as grouping symbols. I don't know if you remember what grouping symbols are. Quick review. We have parentheses, we have brackets, and now we have fraction bars. And remember the purpose of grouping symbols, they were to kind of clear everything up and give things in order, a direction. Well, we can actually use them, we can use fraction bars to also keep our work consistent and neat and give us direction of how to approach the problem. So for example, we have 9 plus 1 in parentheses, and this is divided by 4 minus 1 in the parentheses. So we're going to write this out using a fraction bar. Let me see if I can draw a straight line here. Let's see. Magic. Okay. So we're going to write this. Remember, this divided This 9 plus 1 is divided by this, so this will go on top. So we're going to write 9 plus 1 divided by 4 minus 1. Okay, so this is also helping us know that this is one quantity and this is another quantity, or else we would get really confused, and we don't need that anymore in math. It's already confusing enough. So pay attention to the grouping symbols, and now we have a new one. Our fraction bar is going to help us stay organized, and that's what we need: organization and patience in math. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the next example. So we are asked to evaluate the variable expression when x is equal to 2. Alrighty then, so we are going to do just that. We're going to substitute 2 wherever we see an x. So 4 times 2 squared plus 5 minus 3. Now I have multiplication here. I have an exponent here of a power. I have addition here and subtraction. So remember, what are we supposed to remember? P-E-M, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. If you know it as anything else, I'd really like to know how you learned it, or maybe you learned something different, but I learned please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. I'm not sure how they're teaching it now, but that worked for me, and hopefully it will work for you. But I'm very curious to know if there are any new kinds of memorization techniques for this. I'm very curious. Okay, so we're going back to math. So we have 4 times 2 squared plus 5 minus 3. So we're going to do the exponent first because we're here. Exponent comes before multiplication. So we have 4 times, we said 2 squared is 2 times 2, so that's 4 plus 5 minus 3. We have multiplication right here. We have addition, subtraction. So we go back up here and we say multiplication has a higher priority than addition. So we're going to do the multiplication first. So 4 times 4 is 16. We drop down the 5 and the 3 in the subtraction sign. Now we have addition and subtraction. Addition and subtraction have the same priority. Okay, so we're going to work from left to right. So what does that mean? It means we're going to work this way. Okay, so what we're going to do is, are we going to add or subtract first? We're going to add first. Okay, so 16 plus 5 gives us 21. Minus 3 gives us 18. Okay, good. So here we're going to work from left to right. Okay, perfect. Now we're going to move on to our next one, but I'm actually going to write it up here just so that we can have some space to see all our wonderful work. Okay, so we're told that we're going to evaluate this expression, and we're going to do it when x is equal to 2. So we're going to write 2 every time we see an x. So I'm going to write 5 minus 2 cubed minus 1. So now we see that our variable, that our exponent, this power is in the middle of our expression, and that doesn't matter. We can work in the middle, we can work at the edge. It doesn't matter. What matters is the order that we're doing this in. This is why it's so important. So we're going to evaluate this power. Okay, so we're going to write 5 minus, and we would write 2 times 2 times 2 minus 1. Then we carry out this multiplication, so 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So 8 minus 1. So now we have subtraction, and we're going to use our left to right rule. So we're going to start in the left, we're going to start here, and we're going to work our way over there. Okay, so what does that mean? That means we are going to subtract 5 minus 8 first, and then subtract the 1. So we're going to do this first. So 5 minus 8 is going to give us -3. Going to bring down our -1. -3 minus 1 is going to give us -4. Okay, so I hope that this is helping you. I hope that you have questions if you're confused, or even if you're confused and don't know what you're confused about, please compare your work and try to find where you may need more guidance. Okay, so let's go ahead and erase all this. So I'll go ahead and jot it down, and then we're going to move on to our next example. Okay, so now we're going to use our fraction bars. Our new kinds of grouping symbols are going to organize our work and make it look nice and help us stay organized. And we're going to get a lot of understanding from using fraction bars. So we're going to evaluate this variable expression when x is equal to 2. So what does that mean? Is that wherever we see an x in this problem, we're going to write 2. So we're going to write 2 times 2 divided by 2 squared minus 1 plus 5. Okay, so you can start either on the numerator or the denominator, but just be consistent with the order of operations. What are the order of operations? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Okay, and what does that mean? It means parentheses, evaluating powers, multiplication, division, addition, then subtraction. Addition and subtraction, okay? So I'm going to start on my numerator because I see that's 2 times 2. I look at the denominator and that looks like a lot of work, so I'm going to actually wait to do that. So I'm going to try to keep things nice and neat. So 2 times 2 is going to give me 4 and my fraction bar. So now I'm going to do the bottom, use the order of operations for my denominator. So I notice here that I have a power, I have subtraction, and I have addition. So I look back up here to my PEMDAS, and I see that evaluating powers right here comes before addition and subtraction. So I'm going to start here. So 2 squared is going to be 2 times 2, which is 4. And I want to make sure I write everything exactly as it's written up here. Okay, so now I have subtraction here and addition here. So we're going to use the left to right rule. So we're going to start on the left and work our way towards the right. So that means we're going to start here. So 4 minus 1 is actually going to be, I'm going to write everything down. 4 minus 1 is 3. Now we're going to write the plus 5 is going to come down with us. And now we can do our addition. So this is going to be, I'm actually going to write up here. We're going to put a little arrow that tells us to go up. So it's going to be 4. And then we're going to add 3 plus 5 is 8. And now this would be a good answer, but if your teacher wants you to simplify, if we simplify this fraction, we would divide top and bottom by 4. So it would be 1 over 2. Okay. So this would be our simplified answer. And what I did was I just divided. Let me go ahead and show you. So in order to simplify, just divided this by 4, and I divided this by 4. So that 8 divided by 4 gives me 2, and 4 divided by 4 gives me 1, and that's as far as I can simplify this fraction. So that would be my answer. Okay. Hopefully this is helping. Do you have any questions? Why did I start at the top? Well, that was just a personal choice. I could have started in the denominator, but I just wanted to do this first. I wanted to do the multiplication first, and then I wanted to work on the denominator. Why did we evaluate this exponent first? Because this was the order of our operations. We have to evaluate powers before we do multiplication or division. And here we have our subtraction and addition. Why did we start here? Because we're following the left to right rule, meaning that when we have operations like subtraction and addition, which have the same importance, we need to start on the left and work our way towards the right. Okay, and that's what we did here. And that is what we got, 4 over 8. But I decided to simplify this fraction further just so that you can get used to that. I know some teachers can be a little bit strict about their answers. So it's always good to always see it simplified and know how we got that. Okay, so let's go ahead and jot all this down. Hopefully it's making sense. If not, please go ahead and ask away. Just erase that. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next example. And actually, let's take a pause. What are your thoughts on using a calculator? Is it even allowed? Is it even legal? Are you even allowed to bring it into a math class? It depends. It depends on your teacher, it depends on your professor, it depends on your curriculum. But I would say, personally, I would encourage you to use one responsibly, meaning that you're only going to use it to check your work. Or sometimes when you have to do a lot of practice problems and you may encounter things, especially when you're evaluating powers, you may get into really, really big numbers. And sometimes we just don't have time to multiply 7 to the 8th out. So we just plug it into a calculator. But as long as you're understanding the concepts, that's what's important, because a lot of these problems can get a bit repetitive. Totally understand that, but you have to use a calculator responsibly. Only use it to check your work. But remember that your calculator may not use the order of operations. You may have to input that yourself. And so the calculator is not always going to know what you're talking about, especially if you're not using grouping symbols or if you yourself are just being reckless with the calculator and depending on it. So please use it responsibly, under the guidance of a teacher. Maybe some teachers or professors will not allow you to. I know I was not allowed to, and it was tough. But I think that we are in different times now. Technology is very much a part of the classroom now. So I would encourage you, if you know how to use it well, and you're still learning and it's not hindering your progress in math. Okay, so just a word on that, but always make sure to consult your professors and your teachers on that. Okay, let's go on. And that is the end of our presentation on order of operations. Today was a really fun lecture. I hope that you enjoyed it. I know I did. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Next time, we will be talking more about order of operations, but we will be doing more practice problems. So I hope that you can join us for that. And we're going to have our problems will have an emphasis on what we did today. We're going to evaluate variable expressions when given a value, and we're going to use our fun new grouping symbols, fraction bars, along with our order of operations in order to evaluate expressions. So I hope that you can join me for that. Thank you so much for your time. That is all for today, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.